Routers are one of the most universal tools. You can use them for so many different things. I like to have routers that are attached to, say, a circle jig or different little attachments. And once I get them set up, I like to leave them there. So I have several different routers in my shop, depending on what I'm going to use it for. And so I was on Amazon and I seen this Vevor router. Now, Vevor is this new company coming out. I haven't really had any experience with them, but this thing was just ridiculously cheap. We're talking under $60 for a plunge base, fixed base router, the whole package. So I went ahead, I figured, what the heck, it's Amazon. If I don't like it, I can send it back. Let me just see what kind of deal this is. It's a good deal if it works for 60 bucks. It's a bad deal if it's a piece of garbage. Well, I took it out of the box. I was looking at it. It looks okay. One of the first things I noticed, though, was with the fixed base. When you put the router in the fixed base, it doesn't have the little wheel where you can fine tune it up and down. It just has a little lock and cam lever. So you unlock it, you slide it where you want it, you lock it down. So there's really, no micro adjust on it. Well, that's okay. It's a cheap router. If you're looking for something precision, you need to go ahead and spend, twice as much and get you a nice router. But if you're going to put it like what I'm planning on doing is buying one of the little rigs to do slot joints for a floating tenon. Well, I don't really need to have that adjustment because I'm not going to use that fixed base anyway. But I was like, well, let me check out the plunge base here. Well, I went ahead and tried to put it in the plunge base. There's no guide pin, even though the side of the router has a slot for like a guide pin that most routers that I have, all of my routers have, where they go in one way. Well, this doesn't have it. So when I slid it down, it wouldn't go in. I had to like beat it down. And then I ended up having to go get a hammer to beat the thing back out. So I got to looking at it and trying to figure out what was causing this thing to jam up. One of the nice things about this router is it came with pretty much every attachment that they make for one of these routers except for like an angle base. It's got your edge guides, it's got a round, like a circle, curved edge guide. You know, if you're looking for just a complete package, this is it. Now, another thing I noticed is that most new routers have a button you can push with your finger that locks the spindle, so you only have to have one wrench to loosen it off. This one has the old school style where it's got the slot on the shaft and you have to have two wrenches in order to loosen the bit in it. Now, something I haven't received on any of my other routers is this comes with a standard quarter-inch collet, but it also has a 3/8 collet. So if you have 3/8 bits, I've never had any router bits that were 3/8, so I'm not for sure if that's a metric size or if it's something that you can use CNC bits for. But this thing actually does take 3/8 router bits as well, and it came with a quarter-inch bit and a 3/8 inch bit. So, it does even have the router's bits included with the router itself. So again, I'm trying to figure out, what is it that's going on here. And the theme was that when this thing was cast, they did not do a very good job of cleaning up the parts before they powder coated them. And then you can see on the inside here where the mill had milled out or honed out the center of the hole, right there. And you see there's a couple of shiny spots and the rest of it's dull. Well, that is the only spots that are milled to the 65 millimeters. And the thing is that there were a couple of little jagged edges in there. So I seen where there was the scratches on the router itself. So I took a piece of sandpaper and sanded it down and got it working. So if you're looking for just a perfect router that you can take out the box, it's going to be high quality. This is not going to be the router for you. However, after I had to take a piece of sandpaper and sand off all the burrs, the thing started working perfectly, sliding in and out. I kind of also like the two spanner wrenches because sometimes I feel whenever I'm pushing the little button in, those little buttons seem to have slack in them. And I just don't like the feel of a lot of your routers when you're tightening them up with that single spanner wrench. And this way you can put, a wrench right on the shaft and lock it down. And so it's going to be good and tight there, and that way you can get that bit really tight in there, especially if this is going to be a router that you're going to put into a machine or something and are going to leave and not be swapping bits out all the time. So that's something that's really important to me. So really, when you're buying a router, the only thing that matters is will the router work for you? Do you need to spend more money to get one that's going to work for what you need it to? Or is this one here going to, do everything you need it to do? Well, my opinion on this is going to be depends on you. You will have to most likely, polish this thing up and get it to where the router is fitting inside of the bases because it didn't fit in either base very well. But once I got this thing polished up, it's slot you seen right here, it slid right into the base, no problem. Now, the dust chute on the bottom, there is a screw that goes into it, and I've just got to go dig out my metric taps because the hole is tapped, but again, the machines were going so fast and it left burrs that the little screw that is supposed to hold this in place will only go about a half a turn and will not screw all the way down and tighten all the way up. So once I chase those threads out, then that'll go ahead and attach fine. So again, if you are planning on just pulling this out of the box and want it to work, you're going to be very disappointed with this tool because if yours comes like mine, it just isn't going to work. However, if you're like me and you like to get a good deal and you want something that's going to work and you don't want to spend a ton of money on it, because I would rather have four or five. And if I take, 30 minutes and get it adjusted to make it work and then I can use it for years, I'm fine with that. So it took me about 15, 20 minutes. And then once I did, I got this thing working. And I tell you, this base on here, it works better than any of my other or as good. I've got some other routers that work perfect, so you can't be better than perfect. But the base on this thing, the plunge action, is extremely efficient. The adjustment knob that goes down is, not the highest quality. It's got a push button that's supposed to be like a rapid change, and that doesn't seem to be working like it should. But other than that, the plunge action going up and down, this thing is perfect going up and down. There's no slack. I would buy this again in a heartbeat. If I'm just looking for some sort of plain plunge router,